1,000 years ago, when Arana was young but not innocent, the first age of man came to an end by the meeting of a sword and a shield. The sword of Zaramoth the Unmaker, powered by a subterranean river of magic, had ruled the age by unquestioned force, until the shield of Azunai the Defender became the sword's only rival in power. They were destined to meet on the field that would forever be known as the Plain of Tears. Zaramoth commanded control of the power. Azunai longed to disperse it. Both zealots could not win. But unbeknownst to either warrior, the sword and shield had destinies of their own. The sword shattered the shield and sparked the great cataclysm. The land split open, and the souls of the warriors, ripped from their chests, rushed into the river of souls that flowed beneath the land, splintering it into 1,000 ley lines. The shockwave was felt in every part of Arana. Even the lives that were spared were changed forever. The stars shifted, and the Second Age began. All this was forgotten for centuries. The magic that was scattered on the Plain of Tears was fractured under the world, waiting with its unpredictable power. Until a young prince named Valdis followed powerful visions to the mountain fortress called Zaramoth's Horns. The dark wizards mastered the magic and granted Valdis access to the lost sword of Zaramoth, the very instrument that ended the First Age. In that instant, the Second Age fell under the sword's ominous shadow.
Like to warn everybody right now, this is an M-rated game. Just so you know. Also, hello, and thanks for making me think that the music in the background of that scene was Country Roads. Those weren't even trumpets. What?
More worthless mercs! You're late! You're needed at the front immediately! Check in with Martin Lieutenant Gerund at the tower! Now get moving!
I've had a bad feeling about this ever since we left Armanlu. There's something... I don't trust these Mord.
And ladies and gentlemen, hello. Welcome. We are in the game now. But yes, this is an old voice acting game. So it just chucks us into it. This is the tutorial area. It'll take us about 15 to 20 minutes to get through this, but I want to explain things like as they come up. This is Chapter 1, Quest Number 1. The Siege of Greilyn Beach. Our main objective for this quest is to get to the end of the tutorial, so I'm not even going to explain what's going on, because there's really no point. I will show this menu, because you're probably going to want to see it. The inventory is small because I'm playing on a higher resolution than normal. Otherwise, this would appear larger. This is the skill trees. We are going to be playing as a combat mage because that's what people voted for. But before I get any level ups in combat magic, I'm actually going to get to level 1 in nature magic. Because this game has this weird thing where combat magic and nature magic skills kind of work together with each other, rather than, like, they're split amongst both trees. But there's nothing to make it easier to get experience in both trees. This doesn't happen with melee and ranged or either of the other two classes. Hello, IA. But the main reason we're going to get to level 1 in nature magic is for this skill, Natural Bond. It makes spells cost less mana. How do you get the mouse issue solved? What mouse issue? So yeah, we're going to be getting Natural Bond before anything. Blue exclamation points are just information on how to play the game.
Mark, report to Morton Fighter Talk ahead for your combat lesson. Get moving now!
On our way. Open the gate, please. Why would you ever not take that? Well, the thing is... Oh yeah, I should probably open my inventory. And give this bow to friend, because we're not going to use these at all. This game, unlike the first game, your experience is actually based on how many enemies you kill. These count as enemies, for some reason. Don't worry about it. But we want Drevin here to destroy the first two I know, shut up. We want him to destroy the first two sets of target dummies because we don't want to be the ones responsible for killing them. But he is a melee fighter, so we do want him to be using that stuff in general. He also has Resurrect at level 1 for some reason. So, skip the tutorial. You actually can't when you start a new game. Believe it or not. So yeah, that's just explaining what types of attacks you get. They all appear up here. You can make this shorter if you don't have very many attacks, which I like to do because when playing with lower reses, this can actually take up a good portion of the screen. But I figure I'm going to wait to go over our skills before we get to level 2 because I want to be able to show what actually we can pick.
Long enough, worm. The other mercs are at the front lines already. The Temple of the Coast must be taken by nightfall. Now get moving!
Wait, I have a bad feeling about this. My medallion feels heavy, as if it's trying to tell me not to move.
Not that superstitious nonsense again. That medallion is just a pretty bauble from your sister. We have a job to do, so let's get to it.
You aren't being paid to stand around! Get moving! Now!
I also really like the skill system in this game. He shows like an ogre. Think...
Those filthy dryads are summoning another shell! You mercs, get in there and destroy that thing!
Think of those guys as like... if any of you have seen Lord of the Rings, think of them as the Uruk-hai, because that's essentially what they are. Now, the intricacies of combat magic, it does a lot of damage, but it's very expensive to cast. So once we start actually using our combat magic spells, we're going to start needing mana potions consistently. Never watched Lord of the Rings? It's also a book, by the way. The Uruk-hai are basically just orc level 2, because there are also orcs in that.
We can kill them faster if we spread out. We should switch to rampage mode.
All Rampage mode does is make your allies target random enemies rather than the one you actually tell them to target. I personally don't like it, so I'm not going to be using it. So one big change that a lot of people did not like from the first game is how potions work. You might have noticed that I drank a mana potion in that fight, but I didn't stop to actually chug it. That's because instead of playing an animation and restoring the stat immediately, it instead doesn't play an animation and restores it over time. So potions are not quite as powerful as in the first game, but you can just spam drink them. So it might seem a little easier at first. Also, you can't play with permadeath in this game because you can't disband your main party member because, as I said before, this game's a lot more story-focused. Come on, I want to level up so I can stop using this nature magic.
These creatures remind me of our scuffles with the Taglac. Tough. If we focus our
Ooh,
fire, they'll go
there we
out
go.
faster. Let's switch to mirror mode.
Mirror mode is what we're in by default. It just makes all allies target the same enemy. I did just realize it might be a little hard to read the text for these enemies up here because it's a little small. But basically, pretty much every enemy in this area is weak to fire. Hey there, Charmin. I mean, Kaz. How's it going, Ari? So, Drevin, he kind of just exists to tank damage in the tutorial, so I'm just going to give him Fortitude. So, now that we have Nature Magic level 1, I'm not going to spend any fucking skill points in it. Actually, I probably should get a couple points in Natural Bond. Let's go with 2 points in Natural Bond for now, and then we'll save our other points for the actual combat magic tree. Because minus 12% mana cost is pretty significant, and then now we'll start training combat magic exclusively. So our starting spell is Ember. Ember is very annoying because it sometimes misses a couple of times. Don't worry about it. Luckily, playing as a combat mage, pretty much every enemy in the tutorial is weak to fire because they're made out of wood. Ori, my build was voted to be combat magic. I did not specify that there are multiple types, multiple combat magic archetypes. There are multiple archetypes for every class in this game, believe it or not. Again, I'll go over it once I actually have skill points to spend in it, because I'll probably want to poll to see which one of those I decide to pick as well. Also, yeah, as a combat mage, I'm going to be taking a lot of damage, because combat mages are the least survivable class. Oh yeah, Drevin also has a healing spell that he just casts sometimes, because, you know, it's a tutorial. You don't want to die in the tutorial. Oh, your teammates. We'll get into that in a bit, because there's one teammate for basically every archetype, except for nature and combat magic, which only have one each for some reason. But we'll get to them when we get to them. Who needs survival when you can just murder? Good point.
These wooden creatures are weak to fire. Too bad I'm not a combat mage.
But yeah, they will also have resistances later in the game, so be careful of that. You can fight enemies with attacks that they're resistant to, but it's not as useful, obviously. Oh yeah, I have a skill point now, so as soon as I'm out of this fight, we'll go into our list and I'll explain how combat magic works. Not that it's hard to guess how combat magic works. Yes, death spells can leech life from the enemy. Okay. Now let's go over the intricacies of being a combat mage. I'll go over each class as we get to it. So right now, our only choices are Brilliance, which increases our maximum mana, and Devastation, which increases our combat magic damage. So, the obvious choice would be to pick Devastation, but if you actually look at all the skills we can unlock, which is kind of how you want to build what you're going for, this skill we can get just by having Brilliance level 1. It's just a 20-second, basically a summon that's if any of you have played Terraria, it's basically the set bonus for the Glorified Armor, is what this special does. And it's really strong. Then we've got Flame Nexus, which requires a level 5 skill, which is why we can't get it yet. Come on. Detonation, which requires a level 24 skill. So if we're playing Fire Mage, then we're going to be going down this skill tree. This is one of the death skills, which requires at least level 11 and level 2 of a level 12 skill, which is insane. Corrosive Eruption, which only requires debilitation, which is one of the best skills a combat magic user can have. So we will be building this in, trust me. And then we've got the 2 lightning skills. So Death Magic only has 1, but it gets the ability to leech health. So yeah. Also, there's Summon Alacrity, which is not used in any of the things, which just makes your summoned creatures attack fast, which doesn't help a combat mage at all, because combat mages, if you look in the Nature Mage tree, the Nature Mage is the one with all of the summoning skills and even has summoning specials. So, yeah. We are going to be taking Brilliance level 1 because I don't want to use Gravity Stone because I am not a Nature Mage. So yes, we will be using Energy Sphere for the purposes of this playthrough, and we actually have another skill point. We can see that in order to get level 2 on this special, we need 4 points in Brilliance and 2 points in Devastation. I like to get Brilliance first because having more mana means you don't need to use mana potions as much. Obtain the Glorified set bonus. I'm not going to go into Dreven's skills yet because he... Why did it default to Fist of Stone? I'm not going to go into Dreven's skills yet because we're going to get a warrior pretty quick once we get out of the tutorial. But he has Brutal Attack, which is basically a single strike that does about 1,000% damage. I used at least 1 point in every skill, and then enough to get every ability to be able to change my special if I have resistant enemies. That's probably the smart way to do it.
That sword looks a lot like the weapons my father gave us when we were first learning to fight. You should pick it up.
I like that the game encourages you to pick up that sword, but that sword is weaker than any weapon you've picked up so far.
I have that traitorous fiend in my sights. I could, but why does my heart stay my hand? Perhaps there is more at play here than I can tell for the moment. There's something about this one.
Did you see that elf? I recognized him. It was Amryn.
Amryn? Are you certain? I have heard rumors of his gift of sight, but have never seen him before. What would he be doing here?
I know that he is much talked about in Drudwyn's tavern back home. He's rarely seen, but his deeds, real or imagined, are discussed there with enthusiasm.
Why would he be fighting with the dryads of this isle? From what I know, elves have never had much to do with dryads, at least not that I am aware.
I would be interested in finding that out myself.
Aha, you fool. I don't know why that cutscene forces you to turn around, but don't worry about it. Okay, this is a Ketril. The Ketril are the beefy enemies of the tutorial. They have 160 HP and do not have a weakness to fire. That doesn't mean we can't hurt them. Terraria and Summoner together, and I got PTSD from trying to get Terra Prisma. I never got Terra Prisma. I just didn't want to deal with it. Okay, to make these guys go down more quickly, let's use our Energy Orb, and we'll have Dreven just kill that one. So yeah, that is Brutal Attack. That is Dreven's special. That is the basic special for a melee fighter. It is ridiculously strong, but actually not that useful once you get into the other skills. You got Terra Prisma? I feel bad. I already feel bad. Also, Dreven's Brutal Attack recharges really fast, so if you see a Ketril, just smash it, essentially. Oop, there he leveled up again, so he got his skill back immediately, and that means that this guy's dead. Yeah, that's the Empress of Light summoning weapon. It is really strong and the most annoying thing in the world to get. Yeah, I know I can spend skill points. I already went over that. Once we hit level 5, we'll put up the poll to see what type of combat mage we're going to be playing. Because generally it's good to stick with the same type, if that makes sense. Like, you don't want to be a combat mage and try to split it between all the different types of magic, because you're going to run out of skill points since you only get 1 per level. Turning enemies into giblets with singular strike. Super funny to summon Empress of Light at day when your friends aren't expecting it. I have not
You're
played
turning
the
into
new
quite a
multiplayer.
warrior. Keep in mind, you should choose a class and stick with it if you want to approach my expertise.
That is the only thing Drevin will ever say that will be useful to you.
Took you long enough, Worm. The temple is through the cave. Get moving, now!
Stop a moment. My medallion. I know how you feel about it, but I just can't shake this feeling that something is going to happen. The closer we get to the temple, the stronger I feel it.
Honestly, Drevin, when we are out of here, I'll buy you a frothy mug of ale and you'll feel much better.
I look forward to that. But for now, I want you to take my medallion. Please. It's important to me. More than you know. Just promise that you won't ever let Valdis take it.
I am tired of this. Very well, since you are so obsessed with it, I'll hold your medallion until we return home. Now let's move on. So we get to read a little bit about Drevin's medallion. Yeah, they like to say that. Your best friend Drevin gave you this medallion during the siege of Greilyn Beach. You felt a pang of dread at the time. He was unusually insistent that you take it. What could he foresee that you could not? He seems to value this object more than anything else, and is very concerned for its safety. Putting your objections aside, you promised him that you would keep it safe. If this ancient object is as powerful as Drevin seems to believe, you will probably need it. Now we need to reinforce the troops on the other side of the tunnel. So basically, we are mercenaries who are being paid by this Valdis guy to assault this temple. This is a big boy Ketril, aka an infused Ketril. This is our first example of an elite enemy. They generally are very strong. One hit took away 40% of my HP there. Smash him, please. Thank you. Elite ketchup. One other thing about this cave is that the enemies here are automatically fighting the allies you have. It's best to just rush through and attack the enemies as much as you can to get as much experience as you can. Because the allies will kill them and you will get screwed out of experience. So don't even bother picking anything up in here. Because there's no real point to. You'll find out why in a bit. But just generally any loot you get here is not helpful. So why not just leave Drevin back at the beach? You can't. You're required to keep him with you for this segment, unfortunately. These Ketril are tough, you say, but I have a sphere above my head. So they just kind of melt. We did level up, but I'm going to wait to put that point in for a little while. You get Stripe of Loot later? You could say that, yeah. Kill your teammate. Sir.
Get moving, Worm! You marks are late! Get to the temple now!
Congratulations, Voldus. We have completed our task. When can we expect our pay? Look out!